to Hustle TV, producer series.
I am Mike McFly, and I will be your teacher for today. And what we're gonna do today is go through a track of mine that I have released on House of Hustle. I don't know if I'm going to be talking to you this way the whole time, but I think it's best I don't. Anyways, I'm gonna take you through this track. It released on House of Hustle a couple of months ago. It's one of the tracks I'm really proud of because it's so bombastic. And I thought I'd take you through the drums and the bass line, the combination between the bass line and the drums. It's just a perky track. And then just kind of how I did the arrangement and the mixing. So let's get into that. Let's strap in here, boys and girls, and let's do it. Let's start with the beat here. My beats always consist of a kick, which is, I think, a secret that not many people are aware of, that your kick should be on the 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that makes a house rhythm actually. So that's what I started with. I started with a house kick, and I placed them on the 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if you do that, you'll get something like this. Something like this. Right? It sounds housey already. You throw a vocal on top and you're done. In the beginning there was house music. Done. House record. Okay, I'll lower the sarcasm and stuff to like 50%-ish. Because we're not going to get through this otherwise. Nice meaty kick here. Little top kick. I think for me this track started with like a big kick. I'm into big kicks, man. That's just how I roll nowadays. Like I've discovered the stuff, the more the ghetto housey kind of stuff, and that's what I try to incorporate in my brand of house music. And sometimes those big kicks are the ones that drive the track instead of like a very techie bass line. So I went for a big kick on this occasion. Now, what you need to take into account that is that if you have a big kick, your bass line can't be long because it'll like bite each other. So my rule is always big kick, short bass line, or long kick, short bass line, short kick, long bass line. In this case, we have a big kick, so I opted for a shorter bass line. Now, in this case, and I love doing this stuff, I took a loop from probably Tool Room Academy, by the looks of it, TA, pack. And I just made my own melody with it. So if in Ableton, if you go to simpler, you can just cut this little thing out, and you can make your own melody with this. So this is exactly what I did. And I love the drag and drop functionality of this. Like once you open up a MIDI track, you can just throw that loop in there, and you can start creating like almost right away. That's why I love Ableton a lot. Okay, so let's hear the two of these together. I probably should have done a playthrough of the track before, but we're going to do this a little bit different. You'll hear the end result just when all these elements come together. All right, so I think it's going to be a short walkthrough, to be honest. Like, there's not a lot to this track. It's really about like it being bombastic and placement of elements. And knowing what works well with each other. So I got like a synth sound here that is pretty raunchy. Again, took it from a loop. I don't know what the whole loop is, but let's see. Am I at C? No. Okay, cool. So I took just a continuous note from this, and I did a bunch of processing on it. So there's a lot of EQing going on here, and I'll tell you why there's a lot of EQing going on in a second. But the processing here is the thing that makes it different. So let me play this loop right here. Okay, without the processing, right? It's like a sine wave, like very, very subdued. But with me playing around with like adding textures and stuff like that, it becomes a different sound. So we go from this, which might have been cool also, to like something that's a little bit like, I don't know, like larger than life. All right, so processing does make a ton of difference. Rat Shack is one of my favorites for this. It just adds a lot of grit to it. Like I don't know why I do, but this microphone distortion on sounds is just, I love it. I love it so much. And then this is a little bit of spring delay, and it kind of dirties up the sound. So if I bypass this, we still get the grit from the Redux, but it is a little bit different. Just adds like another layer on top of it. A little bit of reverb, not a whole lot, just to create a little bit of space here. This crescendo, we'll get into this once we're doing arrangement, because it's mostly important for arrangement. It's not important for the sound now. And then OTT to blow things up a little bit. I always say like 9 out of 10 times, if you smack OTT on top of it, I'm not a big fan of like, hey, let's just repeat the same process over and over, regardless of, hey, does it work or does it not? But 9 times out of 10, when you smack something like an OTT on a lead and you have like a little bit of reverb before it, it'll blow it up. It'll make it a little bit larger than life. So let's test that. Let's put that to the test here. Like, other than there being gain added, everything gets blown up a little bit. So that's what I like a lot about this. Cut the lows. I don't need the high end of it, so I cut that off as well. This is my theory for making it sound a little bit more like it's from, I don't know, it's from the 90s and not from now. Like, you cut a little bit of the hi-fi stuff out. LFO tool to dip a little bit when the kick comes in. Not a whole lot, you know. This you know, going up and down here kind of acts like a dry wet situation, I'm really, it's really hard for me to not make a "that's what she said" joke here, but I will not do that. But this is like, if you go here, effect is super obvious. If you go here, it's more subtle. So this is kind of the 50% line where I'm at, because I don't need it to duck that much. Another EQ that's corrective here. Filter is also for the arrangement part here. I'll show you why I did that. And then what I did here is, because I do like to play with panning a little bit more now. And it's because I think it's like the final kind of thing you can do within your track to make it sound a little bit more mature is to go play with space a little bit more. For me, caring about your track is also doing this kind of stuff. And playing with space is also entertaining for the ear. You know, it's like da 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 da. This one goes left to right. I make sure I don't go overboard with it. Like I 15, 16 is the most I'll go, and I don't go 50 because, you know, it still needs to sound good also on a club system. So I don't want to go overboard with that. Last final corrective EQ. So let me get into these EQs here, which, like, when you look at them, they don't really make sense. But I am a big believer, and I've said this a couple of times in like doing EQs in succession, because you can get curves you would never get right in one in one go. So if I add a EQ here, for instance, whoops, Mr. Sausage Fingers can't put the EQ next to it. I would have had a really weird curve here, probably like this and this and this. It would have just been too much messing around, you know? Like I wanted to boost this, but I wanted to cut here and blah, 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 blah. So what I do instead is I just smack another EQ on it. When I'm like, okay, so I added a little bit of top here, needed a little bit of thickness in the middle, is my conclusion after that EQ. And then maybe I need to, for the sake of the mix, I need to bring this down a little bit. A lot of times you'll get, like in the creative process, you'll be like, holy shit, this sounds dope and this sounds crisp and stuff like that. But then when you get to the end stage and the end result, you gotta think about the listener, the end user, if you will, and if they want to play this song a couple of times, they don't want to get ear fatigue, you know. And with the Redux and the Rat Shack on this, I thought it was a little bit too ringy in the ears there. So that's why I dipped it down there. So this is just like, hey, you end up with this sound. Okay, that's pretty good. Well, considering I have this sound now, maybe there's a little bit more room here in the middle. So let me boost that. And then, well, come to think of it, in the end mix down, let's put this down a little bit so it's not so fatiguing to the ear. So this is why I do successive EQs. And since we're like in 2021, you know, these stock EQs, they don't really put that much strain on the CPU anyways. So I don't mind them. The also a plus side here is you just can bypass one and just see you know, what your EQing did, instead of like messing around with these parameters again and stuff like that. Very long explanation on successive EQs and why I think it's the shit. So let's move on here. Again, that house rhythm, man, with the 4x4 kick, it really does something for me. Like it's like every beat, literally, super dope. Anyways, let's see what I did compression or like processing wise. Okay, I honed it in with the kick compressor here. It's one of the favorite ones I use. I even named it go-to kick compressor, but it's actually just the acoustic kick compressor. The only thing is with acoustic kick compressor, there's automatically 3 dBs added here, and most of the times I don't want that. In this case, I did keep it because I probably compressed it a lot. Not a whole lot, but apparently this made sense. Abbey Road, this is the vinyl plugin, I think, yeah. Makes a huge difference. Like for this, it's like super beefy media. I should use this plugin more. This is a really big difference. So I think this is on the general setting, and it just kind of blew up the kick, and I like that. So yeah, there we go. All right. While we're at it, let's look at the processing here on the bass. It's not a whole lot, I think. It's the filter. You know, I didn't need all that transient stuff. This is about like make it loud. It's about pulling it together, like gluing it together, everything packed into one little space there. Obviously, a little bit of side chain on it because it is it playing on the one? Yeah, it's playing on the one. So whenever this one is playing, I don't need it to fill up the fill up the low end. The kick does that because the kick is so meaty and long. That's what she said. Can I still do that? I think I can. You know, I'm a huge Office fan, so it should be okay. Bum, 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 bum. And then okay, low cut also obviously for arrangement purposes, and then the utility here. Okay, I'll get into this also when we're arranging, but this has a function as well. Yeah, let's get to that a little bit later. Okay, transient booster. Let's see what that does. Not a whole lot, turns out. Maybe I was just a little bit lazy keeping that on. I boost the transients a little bit, but it's not a lot. It's really subtle. Okay. So let's look on to the processing on the lead. Oh, we already did that, right? Yeah. We looked at this stuff. Texture. Okay, this texture comes in kind of to fill up the loop. Because in the beginning we have this. Cool, and then it needs to evolve. So one of the things that I like to do is grab a loop, a texture loop, or make a texture loop out of like an FX or something like that. I'll show you real quick what I mean. Let's go to, we have an FX loop here. Okay, well this is one of those loops, but we can make one probably. Okay, let's use that. Grab that. And then let's grab a portion here that is like super short here. So I looped it here. And then you'll get something like this. So that's from this. Right? So we can now add a little bit of redux to this. I mean, again, I like this kind of stuff just to add a little bit of grit. So let's go like that. So what we can do here is well, let's try it on beats mode. Let's see what happens here. We can transpose it to the key of the song, and hopefully it's not like at 11. Well, 11 is okay because we can go -1 as well, but hopefully it's not at like 6, because then we're kind of out of the range where Ableton does a great job of transposing it without like messing up the sound, and at lower values it does better. So we can have a little bit of a scoot around here. I think we're pretty good at 2 or 3. Let's see. Okay, so this, for me, this kind of stuff is entertaining, and it just fills up the loop here. So I'll just copy, oops, I'll try to copy the whole thing here. Copy the rest of the settings here. Maybe let's not go that hard on the sidechain here. So this is kind of the process there. It's a really good way of filling up space in the loop, and you can still do cool stuff pitching wise and all this kind of stuff with these types of sounds. Cool. Then let's move on to the vocals here. This loop is a cool story. I found this somewhere in a YouTube video where, and I'm sorry for going down with my head the whole time, but I'm getting like massacred by a tiger fly here. It's crazy. But anyways, somebody was beatboxing and the other guy was like, and I was like, I wish I could make that into a loop, so I tried. And I think I did it for a different project and I just saved it. Then I was looking for something to kind of, fill up this big break space. And I was like, okay, let me try this, you know? And that worked out great, I think. Cool. All right. Now, let's see the processing on the main vocal. There's not a lot on there. I think I froze this. And I just did, like, my standard process is just throwing it into a compressor, making sure the levels are kind of good. A good plugin for this as well, I have found, is Vocal Writer by Waves. And it tracks the volume, and you set this to a target, and this volume slider will kind of preemptively see, like, oh, okay, so if you want to go there to that to that level, I need to scoot this along. So I'll show you what it does. So in this case, the volume of the actual vocal is louder than what I set the target to, so the knob goes down here. But you can compensate this with the output, and what you'll end up with is a very, very consistent vocal. So this one's great for that as well. It's a more natural way of doing it instead of like compressing, grabbing the peaks. But Glue Compressor does a great job of this stuff as well. So then it's about EQing. I blew up the highs here a little bit. I dipped it a little bit because maybe it was a little bit too bright. And again, I don't want to go into this one again because I was happy at one time with that sound. It's just better for my process to then just throw another EQ on there, do a little bit of a dip, and we're done with it. So that's kind of what I did here. White noise, not too interesting. Let's go to the drums here. And for my process, when I'm mixing other people's session as well, I always go, this is my route towards the end mix. I go kick and bass, aka low end first. If there's a vocal in there, I'll address that. If there's a big lead in there, I'll go with that. I'll throw the hi-hat in there, overheads, perc loop, and I end with the clap, because for me it's a great way of I've set all the other levels. Now I know how loud the clap should be. So let's do it in the same manner. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it makes sense to me when I'm processing this stuff. So let's engage the hat here. All right, big meaty hat here. A lot of transient on it. It's from one of the packs I did, I think for Tool Room. Okay, there's a lot of attack on that. That means it breaks through the mix like really good, and I think this is very important because obviously a bit of the drive from the track is derived from the kick, but it's also derived from the hat. So the hat's really laid back. For me, there's less drive. So this is why I'm really adamant on doing a hat with a lot of attack on it. Most times, I'll layer this underneath as well when I feel, you know, okay, maybe I have a hat that is really interesting texturally, but it doesn't cut through the mix. Boom, I throw a hat like this underneath it. And I think 909 hats, like the standard ones, do fine for this stuff as well. In this case, I chose this one. So a little bit of EQing, transient set to like crazy amount here. So let's do that without the processing and with it. So this is without. So again, processing makes a ton of difference here. Like on the one hand, it's like that old saying, you can't polish a turd. Very, very true. But when you have, you know, solid audio material, you can make a difference by processing, for sure. Like you've seen that here in this in this video already. Like this hat without the processing is way weaker than with it. Obviously there's gain being added, but it needed that. All right, so let's just keep that on. Let's look at the Perc loop here. So this one's a huge difference maker as well. So these are 3 loops stacked together. Let's see what I did. Did I do any like able to get? No, I just kind of kept it as it is. So this worked really good. Like this, you know, it's one of those happy accidents when, hey, this plays off really nice off the bass that I've established. And let's just keep it that way, you know? So there's not a lot of processing going on here, I think. Okay, decapitator, we'll get into that a little bit. Push this to the side. So this is I think this is a shaker, right? Yeah, so shaker to the side, get it out of the way of the hi-hat. A little bit of, you know, stereo imaging going on here with the Haas effect, where you push, obviously you guys probably know this, but you send left entirely to the left, and then on the right side you'll delay it a little bit, and that in turn creates a stereo effect. Okay, let's see what I did here. Or let's see what my Ghost producer did here. Okay, so I didn't need that low out of it because the bass is there. Kick takes up a humongous space in the low end. So this is more about rhythm, a little bit of punch, which is why the transient booster is on there as well. And this one was fine as it is. I did a little bit of a cut here because again, we make room for the bass, we make room for the kick. We only need that groove out of this loop. So let's engage this stuff again. Cool. For me, rides, I like rides a lot, so let's go into that. Rides for me, they're like organic white noise. You know, this is why I generally, Jesus Christ, that's a tough word. Distort the shit out of them, because you can get, again, it fills up space, and it's not the low end where it fills, but it fills up like the higher end, like 5 to I don't know, 5 to 10, 12K, and it just has a way of, you know, making your ears feel like, holy shit, every element is in this track right now. So here I'm more subtle about it. Like it plays a part, but it's not like super in your face. If we take it away, however, I do miss it. Right, it's a cool kind of different take from a more empty loop. So, and in this case, I used 2. Let's see. See what happens here. As Ableton has to think really hard to do so. Oh, okay, so this is not even necessary. This was like a channel strip I made. That's not even engaged. Okay, so the processing on this is not really, it's kind of sloppy, to be honest. But you know, in the background of the track, it kind of worked. So let's gauge this again. Lead texture. So all that stuff combined makes for a very, very thick, bombastic track, I think. So let's okay, this stuff is not that interesting. Reverse crash, I'm a big fan of this stuff at the end of a like significant like if you're finishing up a significant kind of phrase of the song, I always put a crash in there, just because it helps, you know, kind of elevate that moment. Right, I take the lead out, boom, reverse crash. I'm as much as I'm a fan of reverse crashes, I'm not a fan of doing a crash on the one. I don't know what it is, man. It's just not for me. Nor do I like doing like a lot of white noise on the one or stuff like that. Sometimes I do it. I think I do it here. But you know, do it with subtlety. Do it. Don't have 7 white noises in your project just to fill up space in the break. Just make sure, and we'll get to that a little bit later, make sure the arrangement in itself is interesting and it's kind of derived the, you know, the tension you build not from like random effects that could have been in every freaking track, but make it out of something that's already in a track. And I'll show you how I do that in a second. White noise, okay, this is on the one. It just blows up that moment a little bit. Again, use this, you know, was it sparsely? Yeah, sparsely. Or is it parsley? No, that's some kind of vegetable or garnish or something like that, right? Yeah, it is. All right, super not interesting, Mike. Break. Okay, well, this is a good moment for us. In a minute to get to the arrangement. Let me just dive into the clap real quick. The clap and the rim. I think there's not a whole lot going on with the rim. It's just like it's just a one shot at the end of the 2-bar loop. So let's see. Like it's just a little bit of a turnaround. Let's go into the clap here. Yeah, I'm a big fan of these types of claps. This is from an old drum kit I did, and it's really gritty and dark and you know, bit crushy. Like most of it is here, not here. I like these types of claps, and they go really well with like that ghetto-y sound. You know, if you throw like a 909 super crisp clap on this, it would fuck up the vibe a little bit. It would beep up the vibe. Hopefully somebody gets that in the edit. All right. So we got the clap, we got the rim. Let's move on to this this lead right here, the balloon lead. This is basically a synth effects to lead us into the break, and I extended that a lot with the echo, just because having a little bit of a layover and a transition there, I think is pretty cool, because there's since we're talking about arrangement anyways, there's a plethora of things that now come up in the mix. For instance, this loop will come up with a filter. If this place is completely like desolate, there's nothing interesting going on here, it'll feel kind of like, oh, okay, so why are we, what are we waiting for here? Instead of that, having like an FX there on the one, and that kind of is in the same in the root note of the song, that carries us through this little bit here, is a way of like gluing everything together arrangement wise. So once this kind of fades out, now we can hear the loop come in slowly. And this is like in my head, I kind of see it like, okay, that balloon loop is going like this, and then the loop is going like this. But we don't, so we have like a crossover point of like, okay, there's still enough energy there, and there's still something there that draws your attention. So now that lead is out there, the loop is doing most of the talking. Also, one transitional element here before we go into the break, while we're still in the drop, but it's like leaking through the break, is this vocal with a delay on it. Okay, I did it with this one. So you can hear that carry on into the break, and I think that kind of stuff is really important for gluing these elements together. I really believe that's the way you do it. All right, let's look at what I'm doing here, arrangement-wise. Am I doing okay? So yeah, there's a couple of things happening here. This one's not engaged. Filter, okay. So filter on this makes this a little bit less relevant. It makes room for the snare roll right here. Makes room for that snare roll and this loop, and then we get to the crescendo moment. Everything's out. And I'll tell you why I automate this, by the way. Sometimes there's reverb on this, and I don't want this to leak through. So the easiest way of not doing that is because if you cut the MIDI loop, that's fine, but it'll still have audio here if there's a shit ton of audio or a reverb on there still. So if we bypass the channel here entirely, we make sure there's no audio there. Right, so you get that clean cut, and I like that kind of jacky feeling, like, okay, now we're done with this, going into this part, I need that audio to not be there. All right, so the filter is not on anymore. I just let it roll out. Let's see here, the texture, we're not doing anything. So it's a very simple track, really, man, and it's about getting the elements right. And I spent quite a bit of time getting the elements right, actually. Like, I had the bass for the track, and then it took me, and I think that's where I changed the title as well, from like I don't know, like some random title to Perc Monster. Once I got this Perc loop going, the track changed for me, because there was such a vibe in there now. That made the track for me. But I remember taking quite a big chunk of time getting there, because I was like, okay, this track is fine, like it's a 6.5 for me, but it's not there yet. And then I did another session, like just like went in creatively, no rules, let's see what happens. I found these loops. I was like, okay, this plays nice off the bass. Yeah, it worked, and I rolled with it, and that's why it's called Perc Monster, because so reliant on the perc, and it finished the track for me. So All right, I think that's the you know, the brunt of it, right? Oh, we have a synth here that we should not forget. What's happening here? Okay, this is just like a little bit like of entertainment here. I made this this channel strip with every, like, I remember seeing this in Steinberg Cubase. Cubase, I don't know, like, I don't know which version they're on, but where they have this built into the mixing channel. I'm like, holy shit, that's a really dope idea, to just have this at the ready right away. And I remember, like, okay, how could I do this in an Ableton rack? So this is what I came up with. Don't use it as much anymore, but I have a bunch of these things stacked up. So I only used the OTT on this one. Filters coming up, and the reverb is coming up here as well. So that's just to build a little bit of crescendo. I like this reverb a lot, by the way. It's a free one. Tal has a bunch of cool stuff. It's just to add a little bit of space to it, a little bit of a crescendo feeling. Rat Check again, my big friend, and this one is from Subboom Bass, which is a pretty cool synth, and it's meant for basses. But if you guess what, if you play an octave higher, a lot of these sounds are pretty dope also for leads. And that texture is underneath there to kind of carry the break as well. Like along with this, so this is my break here. I don't need like 7 FXs or like whoop-de-whoops underneath, you know, like some people have like 14 layers of FX just to get through the break. For me, it's about, hey man, what do I have in the song and how can I make it interesting? And a lot of it has to do with just treating the elements in a way where at the beginning of the break there's some mystery to it, I guess, you know, okay, what's going to happen, and then eventually unfolding that mystery. This is very poetic, by the way, what I'm saying, but unfolding that mystery and then going into the break. It's a great way of saying, well, it's a very elongated way of saying, if you make these breaks out of the elements that you already have in the track, I think it'll be better, because there's that glues everything together. You know, you create this world where it's about these elements, really, you know, and you create tension out of these elements and not some random element that's introduced at a random point, you know, that's from some sample pack. I'm a big believer in this. Yeah, so I think this is, these are the bulk of the elements here. So what I can do here is take you through the master chain, which is very, very not interesting. I think I did one last mix down on this before I sent it to the label for mastering, which I think was just to kind of cut some frequencies. But let's go through it anyways. So this Creative Tools master filter also, I think, plays a role here. Yeah, this is, I set up this rack. This will be available on House of Hustle on our web store pretty shortly, by the way. This is a really cool rack where you can either do a short kind of dip on the master where you're cutting out the low. Medium goes to, what's that, like 300, and then long goes to 500. So you would do these typically over a long period of time. These short and medium, obviously that's why they're called that. And you can engage the reverb on it. So if you engage reverb on it, it'll start increasing the dry wet on these on this channel. So in this case, I have it on the master, so everything is affected by it. And you can see the how it's coming up here. Right, it builds a little bit of crescendo. It's a really easy way of doing it, and it works. So if it works, just roll with it. I feel like it's been really long since I made a joke, so I'm gonna think of a joke here. But let's see if something organically comes up here, because otherwise it gets really, really dry. That's what she said. Okay. All right, so soft clip is on here. That's to get a little bit of crunchiness. A little bit of a dip here, because this bass stuff is pretty overbearing. Kick is overbearing. A little bit of a dip there is okay. I tend to kind of boost the highs a little bit, maybe a little bit too much sometimes. So I go subtle on this. And then I just smack it into a limiter here. And honestly, this could have been like I work now. This is L2 from Waves. I do almost everything now with just the stock limiter. I wouldn't pay like 300 euros for a limiter. Stock limiter is doing just fine. It's just about how do you drive it into the limiter. Are you making the right decisions here? And then the loudest meter tells me like, hey, am I on point a little bit with the LUFS level? Most of the bigger labels are like -7 or a little bit less. As my cat is asking me for food here. So I'm in that realm. I'm pretty sure I did one more pass on this to kind of clean up the low end a little bit more once I sent it out. But yeah, this is kind of it. I think we covered everything, right? Percs, we did mic hat rides, perc loop, clap, rim. I think we did that. Yeah, that's kind of it. There's not really a lot to this track. It's just about finding the right elements and making sure these things work with each other, and knowing when something works with each other. And sometimes this process takes 2 hours, and sometimes it takes 7 hours. But the more you do it, the more you get trained into how do you say that? Really seeing like, oh shit, this works. This is the one. This is the one that I should develop. So again, for me, when I had that perc loop, that was a big one. Where I'm like, okay, now this is a track I can finish out and I can be proud of. So, but yeah, the cooler tracks, in my opinion, that I've made are the more simple tracks, anyways. There's like 30 channels to this. I would say in the beginning when I started doing this, I ended up with projects of like 50, 60, 70 channels, and it was just because I was overcompensating for stuff I didn't quite get yet. And now when like okay, I need this and I need that, but I don't need this. You can make like educated decisions on what needs to be in the track and what doesn't need to be in the track. So this is why you end up with simple tracks, but simple tracks they tend to bang. So that's good stuff. All right, I'm gonna leave it there. I hope this was helpful for you guys. We'll have a lot of tutorials coming up by some great artists who are releasing on our label. And there should be more nuggets of information in there. Like, this is the way I do stuff. Don't take this as like truth or anything. Find your own path in this. This is how I taught myself stuff, and some people taught me some stuff. Just figure out what works for you, but always how do you say that, keep your eye on the prize and try to make a mature track. Like if we're digging through our demo inbox, what we're looking for are mature tracks, tracks that work from A to Z. The way you get there, we don't care about that, just as long as you get there. It needs to be, your uncle who's like 45 needs to be able to listen to it, but also like a big house fan, or somebody who just every once in a while puts on the operator playlist on Spotify. It's like, oh yeah, okay, this is a cool tech house track, and we're not looking for circusy like tracks. So keeping it simple is really, really important, I would say, and this is my way of doing that. All right, I'm going to truly leave it there now. Thanks for your time. I hope you learned something, and hope you have a great day. And stay positive, and I'll catch you in the next one.